Ooh, that looks pretty legit. All right, so I am going to share my screen, guys. And there we go. Can you all see my screen? Good. Okay. So, thanks for coming, you guys, and wanted to talk to you about hearing loss and falling. And it's on so many people's mind, especially in the over 40 crowd. And there's a couple of you that may be over 40 today. I'm not sure. Carla will check their IDs before we leave, especially anybody with a last name that starts with L. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. But one of the things as you dig into hearing loss, you're going to find is that hearing loss actually causes more hospitalizations and poorer health in all in people that are aging chronologically. And it's affects probably 2 or 3, I would say more, 2 out of 3 of people 70 years and older. And sorry about this, looks like a lot of words on one page, but just wanted to point out way back 10 years ago, actually in 2013, Johns Hopkins first produced proof that hearing loss was a great risk for people with their falling propensity and in those over age 40. And what's pretty significant to me, by a guy that I really admire, a Dr. Frank Lin out of Johns Hopkins, I really watch a lot of his data because he seems trustworthy. They had over 2,000 participants, which is a pretty large study in these days, and found out that even with a mild hearing loss, that's a 25 dB, barely a hearing loss, that fall risk went up by 3 times. So the incidence rate, that is, when they look back on these studies, they found out people with a hearing loss versus people who don't had 3 times more incidence of falling in the last few years. So we think that's really significant. And for every 10 decibels, in other words, when the hearing gets worse, the fall risk goes up substantially. Actually, for severe hearing loss, a fall risk can go up as much as 20 times. So as hearing loss increases, so does fall risk. And one of the things we'll pull out of later data that I show you is that they think that much like opening too many programs on your computer at one time makes your computer crash, too many things going on in the mind at one time that require a lot of resources like hearing and walking cause falls. So I really like this article. I pulled it out actually this morning because it says things so plainly. Falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries among older adults, and people with a hearing loss have a higher risk of falling than the general population. And surmising, the more severe the hearing loss, the higher the risk of falling. And by the way, we are going to have questions when we get to the end. So if you have any, you're welcome to write them down or remember them. I'm sure you won't forget. Next month's webinar is going to be on memory. Just kidding. So hearing loss contributes to falls, and hearing aids can be a useful preventative tool. That's beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, we've known it for years, those of us who fit hearing devices and provide hearing treatment, but there's a whole lot of data that supports it now. And I want you all to think about something. For older people, and you can define that however you want to, older people over 40, I'll say, so I don't get tomatoes thrown at me. Falls are a big fear. And I tell you, I want you to think about something. Think about what you fear. Think about what that does to you mentally as well as physically. I've heard it said that what I fear most has come to pass. So fear has a big actually has a influence on outcome. So think back that people tend to retreat to their chairs when they're afraid to walk or or when they're afraid to get out, we retreat, we hunker down. And when we hunker down, we're more likely to get weaker because we're scared of what's going to happen. And I think falls are really in that category. They're a great fear. We see it almost every day out in the retirement communities. So, how are hearing loss and balance falls connected? Well, how does it all fit in? Balance and hearing are directly connected because they share a common nerve pathway to the brain. And there are actually two functions in the inner ear. One is hearing and the other is balance. So closely linked. So what you hear and what you don't is directly going to affect your balance. And most of us, I agree with the author, because most of us in the field do believe that with poor balance, benefit a lot from auditory cues. Think about how much you hear in a day. Think about being in your home. If you're married, your husband or your wife says something to you from across the room, and you're so tied up in trying to hear and understand what's being said, maybe over the TV, that it takes more energy to drink that information in. And if you're walking, you can obviously stumble because you're not watching where you're going. And why hearing loss matters. A small hearing loss, 25 decibels is where this study starts. And even a small insignificant, what some may think is insignificant, is equivalent from going to normal hearing to mild hearing loss. It's like the dividing line. And it actually triples your chance of falling. Over and over and over, we see this statistic. At the University of Michigan, 115,000 senior sample. That's a very, very big sample of those with newly diagnosed with hearing loss, found that 13% had an injury in a fall within the last 3 years, compared to 7.5% of the general population. So that's a double incidence rate of falling of those who had hearing loss, especially newly acquired. And what are some of the reasons? I think one of the strongest reasons that most science points to is that it taps into your brain reserve. Again, I'm going to use that analogy of when you have your computer on and you open up too many programs at one time, you only have so many resources within your computer, and so many times we open up too much, and it'll either slow down or cause your programs to crash. And I see that happening just practically in the field with our hearing impaired people in their brains. Things just crash when we try to do too many things at once. So, number two, aging affects both hearing and balance. I'm going to go slow here. Age-related hearing loss may, may be linked to declines in the vestibular system. What's the vestibular sense? It's the sense of balance in your inner ear. It's that connection between your inner ear and the brain that says, I'm on my feet and I'm stable and I'm not wobbly, or I'm not. It's a set of receptors in your inner ear, and it comes into play when you move your head. And if you've ever been disoriented before, if you've ever been drunk before, I'm sure none of you out there have, and none of you been in the Navy or the military. So, but it's this disorientation that can cause falls, and it's this sense of balance that keeps us level, keeps us on our feet, and keeps us from falling. It's grounding of sorts. It's being stable on your feet and not being fearful. And interesting, we always think of hearing loss and falling and vestibular difficulties coming at older ages. Well, actually, the vestibular sense may begin to decline at the age of 40. That's not too old. Another thing that they added in the study was low frequency sounds, especially those that are over exaggerated or very loud, like the bass pounding. Think of pounding drums. That may damage the inner ear, and over time, it may affect our balance and our hearing. So those are things that can cause falling. Sound helps us balance. It's so funny, over the years, anecdotally, I've heard patients say over the years, when one of their hearing devices would go out, they'd say, I feel off balance. And because we didn't have the science to back it up, I honestly didn't believe them. I thought, okay, I'm not going to argue with my patient, because they teach us, our patients teach us more than any curriculum that we study. But over the years, science backs that up. So sound helps us balance. If you try to balance on one leg in a yoga class, for example, your teacher is going to tell you to stare at one area, and it helps you. It's kind of like an auditory anchor. You take in so many sound cues and clues from the room, from the teacher of your yoga class to someone behind you coughing or sneezing to something falling beside you. There's so much information going, and it seems to ground us and steady us to keep us stable. So one of the things that I think we'll notice is our auditory, our eyes, our ears, and our other senses actually all, and our muscle and our joint coordination, all are possibilities that help stabilize us and keep us on our feet. And one that I don't think we think about too often is our mood. If you've ever been in maybe an angry mood, or a mournful mood, or a depressive mood, it can actually affect how stable you are on your feet. If you're ever caught up in those emotions. And depression, actually, we'll probably do a webinar in the coming months on depression and hearing loss and how it ties into falls. But depression is linked to more falls, and those falls tend to deepen depression, another classic bad cycle, because then we become fearful of falling. And as we fear, it adds to the depression and the anxiety snowball. So it's such a real thing. And any of you that we're all susceptible to depression, and please, please, please don't ignore that symptom. Seek out some type of help. All right, so I'm having a little bit of trouble with my slide here. Okay, and this is where our technical guru, Carla, comes in. All righty. My left and right arrows are in anti-deployment. All right, I'm going to have to. All right, sorry guys, but we have to have the expert come in. My left and right arrows won't. I'm going to let you take that. How great of a help is that you have to reach out for help? There are people smarter than you at things, and Carla happens to be one of those people.
We're hoping.
Who is way smarter than me. We could stop the share and come back if that helps. Oh, that do it? Let's see. Okay, see there? There's a great, like, I just got out of my mouth, reach out and ask for help. And as a prideful man, I'm not used to that. So one of the things that we've noticed over the years, but again, science backs this up, and honestly, our patients have instilled this in us, is that hearing devices do help, especially when they're properly used, they're properly set, especially when you follow a rehabilitation plan that is very specific to you and your environment. New study shows that the use of hearing devices do reduce fall risk. And we've known that for a long time. But University of Michigan found that first-time hearing aid use cut the risk of a fall-related injury by 13 percentage points over the next 3 years. And that's pretty incredible news. And I'm going to stop right there to say, whatever it is that's going on with you, waiting doesn't usually help. I'm going to say that again, because some of us are more hard-headed than others and needed to hear it twice, is that waiting on a health issue doesn't typically make it get better. Stop and ask yourself, if this were somebody you love, what would you encourage them to do? And I would encourage you to look in the mirror and do the same thing. with a hearing loss, get it taken care of. We'd love if you came to us. We'd love it, love it, love it. But we're only one place out of so many locally and regionally here that treat hearing loss. So please get help somewhere. It's possible that treating hearing loss with hearing devices or cochlear implants serve as a type of a balance aid, kind of like a cane, if you will. A cane helps you hold your balance. When you need one, you need one. Hearing loss requires hearing help, whether that be hearing devices or implants or wax removal or medical intervention. We've got great ear, nose, and throat doctors that do fantastic work around the Tampa Bay area. So please seek help if you need it. So in general, I just want to back out of all this to say, if you are feeling off balance, it might not just be from a hearing loss. We're just focusing on hearing loss and how it affects your balance today. But if you're having difficulty, reach out to your primary care provider. If they don't take you serious, get another one. Ask someone else. If you live in a retirement community, reach out to your community activity director or the rehab department that may be inside for professional guidance. There are great community Tai Chi classes. There are other things. The first thing to do is get this diagnosed. Why is it that I am off balance? So seek help. Don't wait. Waiting is just going to maybe expose you to a fall. And by the way, statistically, those over 65, 1 out of 3 of you are going to fall this year. It's just a hard and fast and long-term statistic. So now, are there any questions? Is there anyone out there that would have any questions? Now would be the time to ask them. Okay, a bashful bunch. We love it. I left a number on the bottom there. There's a number you can call if you need our services or had any requests for follow-up information. Another way, if you have any questions, but you don't want to ask them in this live format, you can literally respond to the email that you got invited by. I believe it's operations@sjhi.net. So all you have to do is go back to the original invitation that you got by email. You can respond to that. That'll go directly to Carla. She'll make sure that your requests go to the right place. You can also, if you need an appointment to have your hearing checked or have any other questions, you can also email Hazel Osborne at that same link. So if you have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that you got invited by. I want to thank you all for coming today and want to encourage you, whatever it is going on in your life right now medically, even if it's not related to hearing loss, please reach out and ask for help, because we want to see you in great health. Bless you guys. I hope that the Lord blesses your health, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you again. Have a blessed day. Bye all.
Bye.